Well, let's get on to today then. As I mentioned yesterday, we're always excited to have a keynote address during Sales Expo and get a fresh perspective from the outside. And I mentioned yesterday as well that Lynne Jensen Nelson is back with us for this year, and we're excited about that. Lynne is the co-founder of Conversionomics Speakers and Consultants. She leads a team of experts that helps organizations create effective business strategies, and she spent over a couple of decades training successful teams and earning respected distinctions, including the Platinum Award for Distinguished Business Leadership. She understands that creating effective communication strategies is very important. It's helped her rise through the ranks of corporate leadership and now into success in her entrepreneurship. In fact, if you remember from last year, effective communication strategies, one of the things she said that stuck with some of us was, confused customers don't buy. Makes pretty good sense, doesn't it? But that puts it on us as salespeople to have effective communication, to be effective senders of communication so we get the customer to do what we want them to do, which obviously is good for them. So today, Lynne focuses 100% of her efforts on creating custom keynotes that provide information, motivation, and inspiration to audiences around the globe. She's one of the more sought-after speakers in our industry, and of course, we are thrilled to have her back. So please welcome Lynne Jensen Nelson.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. Wow, I kind of wish you would just follow me around and do my speaker intro, Tom. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, I am thrilled to be back with Daktronics. Not only am I a huge fan of the products they provide and create across the globe, but as I mentioned, if you were at the virtual presentation last year, my little tiny hometown in Minnesota actually has a Daktronics production facility. So we are big, big fans of Daktronics. And I have to share with you, when you were talking about maybe eating something you haven't eaten before, I was sharing, last night I grabbed some dinner in a place not far from the hotel, and I had something new. Now, I grew up in Minnesota. I've been around a lot of the same foods. But what's interesting about things here in Brookings is that I ordered a salad to make myself feel better with the steak and baked potato. But the salads here have no green things in them. Did anybody else notice that? It was like all bacon and cheese. It was like my husband's dream meal. Like, honey, I ordered a salad. You're welcome, right? So that was something new for me. So I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. I know on the welcome yesterday, there were some questions about who is a first time here at Daktronics and those of you who've been here for a while, but I really want to get to know you a little bit better before we get into the presentation. My question for you is this. How many of you, I want to know how you got here today. So how many of you walked here? Anybody walk here? A couple of you? Well, congratulations, I appreciate you. I don't understand you, but I appreciate you. My phone did that yesterday. I pulled into the hotel and I put in Daktronics, how to get here. Of course, I could just follow the road called Daktronics. But my phone instantly defaulted to it'll be a 9-minute walk. And I was like, phone, you don't know me. Clearly, I'm not going to walk to Daktronics. So we know how many of you walked. How many of you drove here from home? Not necessarily from the hotel, but drove here. Okay, how many of you flew someplace near here? How many of you took more than one flight to get here? This is my favorite part. More than 3? Keep your hand up. 3 flights? More than 3? No, 3. 3 flights? Where did you come from, sir?
Tallahassee, Florida.
Tallahassee, Florida. Yes, that is a tough place to get to. That is a tough place to get. Well, we're glad you made it. Anybody else have anything crazy? Camels, trains, anything? All right. So whoever you got here, we're glad that you're here. Now, how many of you were a part of the virtual conference last year that saw my keynote last time? A couple of you will admit it. Great. Well, welcome back. Thank you for coming back. So we're going to build on that. Last time we talked about competitive advantage. Today we're going to build on that. Those of you who were here before, we talked about the 4 P's of competitive advantage. I know it's early in the morning. I know you're out late. Anybody remember the 4 P's of competitive advantage? What sets you apart? I'll give you the first 2, product and price. Okay? Everybody has that, right? We got great products, we offer exceptional value, blah, blah, blah. Everybody says that. The other 2, when it comes to competitive advantage, people and process, right? So right now, and I want to remind you from the very beginning, you've got a notebook, you've got a pen. Please go ahead and grab that. We will have some follow-up notes, but it's important. If you're going to get ROI out of this conference, you know that writing it down is the first step to actually applying it. So please, if things jump out at you. So the first thing, competitive advantage, product, price, everybody talks about it, people and process. Today we're going to focus on people and process in this particular session. You're going to get tons of information about product while you're here, and certainly about the exceptional value that you offer, but let's stay focused on people and process for now. All right, my next question for you is, how many of you watch the Olympics? All right, so share with me, what are your favorite Olympic memories, Olympic sports, athletes? What jumps out at you? What sticks in your mind when it comes to the Olympics? Could be recent or in the past.
One of our close friends is on the Olympic pole vaulting team for her Achilles tendon, and so did Lynne.
Oh.
But her really good friend is the gentleman that won the silver for the U.S. for pole vaulting.
Wonderful. Isn't it nice when we have that personal connection? Fantastic. Thank you. What else? What other Olympic stories or athletes jump to your mind when we talk about the Olympics?
Female wrestler that won the gold.
Yes, absolutely. There was a lot of media around that. What else? Michael Phelps, right? Oh my gosh, amazing athlete. Plan for the best, prepare for the worst. We can use that in our sales process, right? So this, what was the other one?
How about the Atlanta Games opening ceremony, Muhammad Ali lighting the torch?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So we just finished the Summer Olympics, please, sir.
And Usain Bolt.
Yes.
Usually not the first out the gate, but he's the first across the finish.
And so entertaining. He's like the most entertaining athlete. Not only is he like the last one out of the gate, but he's like showboating. He's like doing jazz hands. He's like waving at the crowd, and then all of a sudden he just crushes them all, right? I do. I love that too. Seth?
1980 men's hockey team.
Of course. Of course. Okay. Miracle on Ice. Okay. So we just had the Summer Olympics. Obviously, a lot of great stories came up in the Summer Olympics. Again, one more show of hands. How many of you watched any of the Summer Olympics? There were a lot of like 10 channels dedicated to it, right? It was hard to keep up. So we watch a lot of that. But what I want to talk about is actually a different group of athletes. Does anybody recognize these guys? They're curlers. How do we know they're curlers? Yeah, exactly. I got to tell you, so again, I'm from Minnesota. We do have quite a lot of curling in Minnesota. I've actually presented at curling clubs in Minnesota. So what I love about these athletes, it's kind of like my salad I had last night, right? So this is like the one sport you can have a dad bod and hold a beer and compete in the Olympics. Can I say beer here, Tom? Is that okay? All right. So these guys, how do we know them? They're curlers, but what makes them, how do people know them? Some of them, yes. There's a couple Wisconsin people in there, I'm just saying. Okay, they are from Minnesota. What else do we know about them? That should be enough, right? They should be famous enough just being from Minnesota. So these four guys, actually there's five, there's an alternate, he just isn't pictured here because they only play 4 people at a time. So the second guy from the left, his name is John Schuster, and he's the skip of the curling team from 2018, so the last Winter Olympics. Okay, he is John Schuster. Now, what's interesting about John, he is from Minnesota. The other thing that's interesting about these athletes is that they all have day jobs. So Mr. Schuster, does anybody know what he does for his day job? Every once in a while, people will know. He works at Dick's Sporting Goods, okay? So he'll sell you stuff at Dick's Sporting Goods. So Jim Schuster, he's a curler. He was in a number of Olympics. So in 2006, he was in his first Olympics for curling. He won the bronze. His team won the bronze. And I have to write, 2010, they got second to last. The next Olympics in 2014, they got dead last, okay? So an American team dead last in curling. So John Schuster said, hey, I got to work with the Olympic Committee, and I'm going to pull together a program, a high-performance program to improve curlers across the country. There's no reason we should be getting dead last in the Olympics. And the U.S. Olympic team said, great, let's go ahead and get that started. So John helped create it. It was a Columbine situation. When it came down to the day to send out the invitations, they didn't send one to John Schuster. They said, thank you very much, but we're not inviting you. We don't think you're one of the top athletes. We think you're going downhill. And in fact, what John Schuster was known, they actually have a term in the Urban Dictionary for Schuster. And basically what it meant is failing to meet expectations. Now that's tough. Imagine having your name in the Urban Dictionary. I mean, that is harsh. That is harsh.
Put in parentheses, husband right next to
You think so? For some, maybe. So here's what happened. The reason I bring him up, he could have said, you know what, the universe is telling me this is no longer my deal. Okay, this is no longer where I want to be. My own team booted me out. But instead, he collected a group of guys that were also rejected from the Columbine. So he made up a team of these, actually 5 guys. That Tyler George, who's the vice skip, he's on the far left. He manages a liquor store in Duluth. I love that. Matt Hamilton, who also didn't qualify, he is an R&D technician in Wisconsin. John Lancaster, who's a Minnesota corrosion engineer. Okay, and then Joe Polo, who is a Minnesota project manager. So he gathered these guys up. A whole bunch of the rejects is what their names were. Their own Olympic team said, that's fine, you can create a team, we're going to call you the rejects. So what happened is he's like, okay, let's do this. He kept it together. They trained and trained and trained. It came time for the Olympic trials, and they actually beat the US top team. So they go to the Olympics. Now they go to the Olympics and they get in the round robin and they fall 2 and 4 after the round robin. Now you don't need to know anything about curling to know if you've gone 2 and 4 in the round robin, how hard is the fight to get back on top? Almost impossible. You have to win every single match and beat the top teams. Which, how does it turn out? Anybody know how they did in the 2018 Olympics? They won the gold. Thank you. This would be a super disappointing story. I'm like, yeah, they got 7th out of 10. So you know what? Sometimes you're just not good at stuff. But they won the gold medal. Now, why do I bring up this story? I bring it up because if you think about leadership, you think about influence, we're going to talk about engagement today. How many of us, myself included, would have said, enough is enough already? Okay. Do I have that ability? When I keep losing over and over, my own organization has booted me out. How many of you would keep up the fight? How many of you would keep engaging and recruiting? And in fact, 3 of the guys on his team said, yeah, I can't get time off from work, so I can't go to the Olympics. After they qualified, and he had to help them see the benefit. So how many of us have that level of influence and engagement in our own teams over our customers, with our trade partners, whoever they may be? So I really want you to think about that level of commitment. Now I have good news. They actually changed the definition in the Urban Dictionary. So today, if you look up Schuster in the Urban Dictionary, which I'm sure you're all going to rush out and do on your next break, it says to redeem oneself, to achieve great unexpected success in a critical moment of competition. Okay? Much better than failing to meet expectations. So think about that. How do we make sure that we're doing that in our own business? So today we're going to focus on influence and engagement. Sorry, I'm going to get used to this clicker here in a minute. Influence and engagement. Now I will tell you, the term influence and engagement, it's a lot like what were the 2 most popular terms in 2020 in all the crazy going on? Pivot, right? Everyone's got a pivot. I was like, if I hear pivot one more time and it's not a dancer, I'm going to lose my mind. Okay, pivot and essential were the words of 2020. Well, in 2021 and beyond, we're going to talk about influence and engagement. Now, why is influence important? Well, one more question for you. How many of you are involved in sales? Okay, good. Everybody's involved in sales, right? Whether you're the business owner, the business leader, you're frontline sales, you're a project manager, interns, we're all in sales. We're going to talk about that more later on. But you need to use your influence to help people make good decisions. If you were a part of the virtual event, you know that I believe there are 2 major rules when it comes to sales. Number 1 is teach your customers to be good customers. Remember? Do you teach your customers to be good customers? And teach your team to be a good team member. People don't know. So there are things, some of you have been in this industry so long, there are things you've forgotten that people don't know. So we want to make sure we teach them to be good clients. And we lead that process. Leadership is influence. Okay? And of course, engagement. Why is engagement so important these days? When are you hearing about engagement in business? There's 2 big parts of it.
People don't always buy on price. They buy on relationship.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how you feel about high fives these days, but I'm totally giving you a high five. Right. Actually, consumer research will show you price is actually way down on the list. Yeah. It's about your reputation. Are you trustworthy? Are you providing the right solution? You're exactly right. And that's engagement. I'm going to show you some stats about it when it comes to your customers. What about team members? Any of you in this situation, I know you're not, some of you are small, maybe 1 or 2 people, some of you are 200 employees. Anybody working on recruiting and retaining top talent right now? Is that a focus for anybody? Yes. For a lot of places, even if it's not employees, maybe it's trade partners, reliable installers. Hey, we're going to talk about that quite a bit today as well. So our goal today is to take the latest and greatest consumer research, economic research, and industry best practices to give you the tools to add to your toolbox. I know you are crazy successful, but we're going to add a few tools as far as selling more, selling faster, keeping our customers happy. For some of us, it's no longer about sales. It's about how do I keep juggling the flaming chainsaws, and also recruiting and retaining top talent. All right, so there are 5 steps in the decision-making process. This is where we want to start. So when I'm talking about decision-making, whether it's buying from you or making the decision to work with you, what is the very first thing that your internal and external or your recruiting candidates, they have to say yes to before they're going to move forward? Research will show you it's the person who I'm talking to. So whether it's the salesperson, at the end of the day, it's the person I'm talking to. Now, it doesn't matter if you've been in this business for 5 minutes or 50 years. It's about, are we asking the right questions? Are we paying attention? Are we addressing the real challenges? So before I'm going to talk to you about product or price, and too often I see salespeople who start with product. Or maybe the first question is, what's your budget? And again, if you were part of the last presentation, you know what's your budget is one of the worst questions you can ask somebody. Why is it though? Now, some of you are like, nope, that's not true. I got to know their budget. I got to know their budget. I can't provide the right products if I don't know their budget. What's the problem with starting with, what's your budget? Hi, my name is Joe. I'm selling signs. What's your budget?
You don't know their name yet.
We don't know their name yet. That's possible. That's possible.
You ask them to part with their money.
We are. Because
allow them to introduce themselves.
Exactly. And when we ask, what's your budget, where can things go horribly, horribly wrong? They put up a wall because, A, they may not know. I don't know. I don't buy signs every day. I don't know what they cost now. I don't know what my options are. I know what I like, maybe. Or I know you've all had clients say to you, I have no idea what I want or need. Can you please help me? And then you say, oh, sure, absolutely. What's your budget? They're like, well, I told you I don't even know what I want. How do I know what my budget is? So I'm setting them up for failure. So again, we want to get in the habit of asking the right questions. Where are you in regard to establishing a budget range for this project? Because I want to know, well, we've allocated 10,000, 100,000. They might say, I have absolutely no idea. And you can say, well, you know what? The good news, you've come to the right place. We can help you with that. So the key is we want to establish right away, we are here to help, we are trustworthy, and we are confident. Harvard Business Review will tell you the first time somebody meets you, particularly in sales, the first thing I'm trying to figure out is, are you trustworthy and are you confident? Now, what do they want you to be confident in? If I'm in sales or leadership, we're all in sales, what do I need you to be confident in? Your product, absolutely. What else? Your company, absolutely. What else? Yourself, your solutions, your ideas, your ability to solve problems. Yeah. So they want to see all of these. So first step is I got to say yes to you as a person before I say yes to your company and before I say yes to your products. Now that's why you go to conferences like this, right? Because I want to give myself that information to build confidence. So the person, then the company, then the product, then the price, and then is it time? Okay, is it time to buy? Is it time to move to a new position? So instead of product, you might see the word position, okay, the job title if I'm recruiting somebody. Instead of price, if I'm in recruiting, I think the salary, the compensation. So let's focus on that. Now, this is really exciting stuff. I'm not sure you'll all share my excitement yet, but you will. Why is this so exciting? Because the one thing we can control is what? Ourselves and our team. The people. That is something we can train. I work with a great client, and they're in manufacturing, and every time he brings me in, he says, you know our commitment. Our commitment here is to have the most professional, sophisticated, well-trained sales team in the world. Now that's powerful stuff. That's a commitment they make. So we're going to start with the people.
So process.
Yes. We're going to touch on process a bit too. Process is important. And the key to process, thank you for bringing that up, the key to process is make it easy for people to buy from you. Make it easy for people to buy from you. That's the second rule. Okay, teach your clients to be good clients. Number 2, make it easy for people to buy. Now the challenge is we all think it's easy to buy from us. Okay, our process makes complete sense to us. So do we go back and ask our clients, do we get feedback from them? Do we ask them about the initial consultation? Do we ask them about payment options? Do we ask them about doing the, you guys call them add-ons, I would call them additional solutions? Okay, do we make it easy? Do we make it easy to transition from exterior signage to interior signage? Do we make it crazy easy for your clients to refer business to you? Right? Do we make it easy? In fact, I would tell you, if you look at the 4 Ps, price, product, people, and process, the process needs to be the one that you circle Because making it easy and being able to say to your customers, we make it easy for you, instantly, people pay for convenience, right? We learned that in COVID, didn't we? Yeah. You know the best part of COVID, there's 3 things I love about COVID. I love the touch up my appearance button on Zoom, which for those of you who saw me on Zoom, I'm so sorry, this is what you get. I also love the fact that I learned actually I live outside of Minneapolis, but I say Minneapolis, it's easier. I learned that my liquor store and Dairy Queen will deliver to my house. If that isn't a great thing about COVID, I don't know what is. So here's what we know. The other good thing about COVID is that leaders, if you are a business leader, and frankly, everybody in business is a leader. Okay, we have to lead, whether it's the whole company, our division, our department, our team, our reports, we are all leaders. The good news is Harvard Business said, great news. If you survived, which clearly you all did, if you made it through 2020, leaders who evolve with a clear, confident vision have emerged with organizations that are stronger. You've all heard what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Well, last year proved it, didn't it? It did. So let's take that, and how do we apply that to the future? So here's what we know. Things are changing faster than ever before. If you think back, and again, we're going to look back a little bit before we build the foundation for the future. We had 15 years of behavioral change take place in 30 days. 15 years of behavioral change. Think about how many of you would have thought before COVID, there's no way I can do a client meeting on Zoom. I have to be in person. Okay, a lot of people did, but we made these adjustments. Now, I want to give you a little basis. So again, we're going to go back and look at history so we can build a foundation for the future. So I want to see how long these different types of communication, which I know calling Pokemon Go as a communication tool might be a bit of a stretch, but go with me. So how long did it take 50 million people to use these different levels of communication? Now, I'm going to do a disclaimer right up front. Some of you I know are very, very detailed people. This is not drawn to scale. It is a PowerPoint presentation. It's not drawn to scale. So please don't get hung up on that. So how long did it take 50 million users to use the telephone? What are your guesses? 80 years. 80 years? Anybody else? 40? 75 years. Now, yeah, big time bonus for you, Taylor. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm just going to keep feeding you the answers. So when everybody gets like the sugar crash after those big breakfasts they had. All right, so now we can't even imagine going across the street without it, right? Make a Target run without my phone, and you feel like, the whole world could crash down. So how long before the radio had 50 million users? So these are in chronological. What would you guess? 60 years? Other guesses? 38. Okay, 38 years. How about television? How long? And now we have radio, television, internet, Facebook, all of this is on our phone. But how long before the television was in 50 million households? 25? Good guess. Anybody else? 13 years. Okay? Again, this is where the not to scale part, I know some of you, this is throwing you off. How long before the internet had 50 million users? Some people know this. Obviously, it's more current. Most of us.
3 years.
Very close, 4 years. With 3 and 5, the answer is 4. Facebook, if you've seen the movie, how long before 50 million people used the Facebook? Exactly, thank you, 2 years. Now, Angry Birds. How many of you are Angry Birds players? Be honest, we're among friends, in the back, okay. All right, how long before 50 million people downloaded the app Angry Birds?
2 days.
Not quite, 35 days, 50 million people, 35 days. Now, Pokemon Go, let's be honest. How many of you have played Pokemon Go? Anybody? Okay. I like how you're all clumped in the back, probably playing Pokemon Go. I have no idea. So the funny thing about Pokemon Go, I remember the first time, we were in Minneapolis going to a restaurant, and my husband and I were driving, and all of a sudden we go past Rice Park, which is a park next, a bunch of restaurants around it, and there's like all these people like in a group following their phone, right? And I was like, babe, I think it's the zombie apocalypse. Like, I'm ready. I've seen the movies. I know what I got to do. But and it's still to this day, the fastest downloaded app. How long until 50 million people were playing Pokemon Go?
1 week. That one's 1 day.
Good, 19 days. 19 days. Now, so that just gives you a frame of reference. Now, how about this? When the world, anybody recognize this? This is just for fun. Anybody recognize this? Okay, who is this? Chewbacca Mom. How many of you have seen Chewbacca Mom? A few of you? All right, so Taylor, you're up front. You're going to tell the world, the people who have better things to do with their time than watch Chewbacca Mom videos. What is Chewbacca Mom?
It's been a long time ago, but she got this mask and she was just so excited about it and she couldn't stop laughing and it just went viral because it was just hilarious.
Yeah, so
Her excitement was infectious.
yes. So she buys a mask at Kohl's that when you put it on and open your mouth, it makes the Chewbacca noise. So as it makes the noise, it makes her laugh, which makes her mouth open, which makes more of the noise. So she sits in her car and videotapes herself for, I don't even know how long it is. I can only watch it for like 2 seconds. That's the whole thing, okay? This is not how do we cure cancer, how do we clean up the ocean. This is not, solving the world's problems. This is a woman laughing at herself wearing a mask in a car. It is just that complicated. How long before 50 million people saw it? 24 hours. Now, I share this with you, A, to give you a little bit of a context, but also to show you that the information that travels fast is not always good information. Ta-da. Okay? Information parity. So again, when we go to our customers and say, what's your budget? Now, some of them may research. We know that today's consumers are sophisticated. They're out doing research, but the information they get may not be good. So that's why we want to be careful. And then finally, as a frame of reference, of course, the world turned to Zoom, which now I know there's a whole bunch of other platforms. How long did it take 50 million users when COVID hit?
A week?
Minutes. Actually, in the first day, they shot up to 300 million users a day. They're like 50, we don't care about that. We're 300 million. Okay, so things are changing. The reason I bring it up, things are constantly changing. Now, in your industry, what you do is so incredibly important. And I know for some of you are like, hey, it's a job, it's a business, I've been doing it a long time, I inherited from a family member, I just got here. But what you do 100% drives the economy, 100% supports your communities, 100% makes businesses grow, right? How about new businesses? What's the likelihood of failure for a brand new business? Incredibly high. And how can you help? You are one of the few people who can step in and say, all right, you're a brand new business. Let's make sure people know you're here. Let's make sure your digital experience matches what today's consumers want. And in fact, I would venture to say, without you, businesses fail. Without you, communities are not successful. Revenue isn't generated. Organizations, streets don't grow. So what you do is so incredibly important. And thank you for hanging in there for the last year, because I'm sure a lot of us, when COVID hit, you're like, oh man, but you hung in there. So how do we build on that foundation and grow into the future? Well, I'm so glad you asked.
We clone you and disseminate you across the country. And
I love the way you think.
the world will
be
a better place for all of us.
Oh my gosh, that was recorded, Seth, right? Can you just keep playing that back for me in a loop? You, sir? I like you, Pete. I'm going to play that to my husband when I get home, too. If only there was more of me. I usually say, if only everybody would do what I say, it would be better. But if there were more of me, that would be so great. All right. So, although nobody would ever listen to anything, nothing would ever probably get done. So let's talk about being an influencer. Are you an influencer? I want you to think for a minute. Are you an influencer? And some of you are like, heck yeah, I am absolutely an influencer. I am comfortable. I'm out educated. I'm a subject matter expert. I do videos. Okay, the world knows I'm here to influence. But the fact of the matter is some of you might not be that personality, and you can still be an influencer, right? So how do we influence? How do we help our customers make good, fast decisions? So we created an influencer checklist. So we are constantly combing the research that's out there, the studies that are out there. Again, new information about consumers is changing all the time. Things are happening faster than ever. And we put together our influencer checklist. So we're going to go through our top 5. These are just 5 simple things that you can do to make sure that you are a positive influencer on your customers, on your team, on your community, within your industry. And it's all about, just like sales, it's mindset and skill set. Some of you already have the mindset. Some of you have to push yourself out there and say, I know I need to be an influencer. I know I've got to walk the walk and talk the talk if I'm going to lead this organization. You've got to have that mindset. Every time you approach a new customer, you all know these folks, right? There's 2 mentalities. Every time the phone rings, we think either, hey, that's my next big sale. When I was brand new to sales, I had to tell myself that, even though I was deathly afraid of the phone ringing. When I was new, I knew they were going to ask me stuff I didn't know, so I was afraid. But I had to tell myself, yep, that's my next big sale. Or they think, oh man, this is just, they're gonna get upset, lead times are extended, they don't know the price, they think it's gonna be less. So look at your mindset, and of course your skill set. Influence is like any other skill. It's getting better or it's getting worse. Okay? You're getting stronger or you're getting weaker. You have to constantly work on your craft. So we're going to start with the negatives. This is how you know you're not an influencer. So you don't have to write these down, but you might want to think to yourself, have I noticed these in myself? Do I notice these in other team members? Are there things that I can work on? So these are the bad things. If you do write them down, put a big circle and the red line through them. How do you know you're leading from fear? They need to be right. People who need to be right. I work with a quite successful, in fact, surprisingly successful business owner. And if he's ever wrong, he has to point out it was because somebody gave me the wrong information. Okay, I rely on this person, they didn't give me the right information, I made the wrong decision. Okay, so being right is more important than figuring out where is the opportunity to improve. When things go wrong in your business, I hope you all do this. When things go wrong in your business, let's figure out where was the breakdown. Certainly, let's put out the fire. Anybody feel like firemen all day long, like constantly putting out fires? And we need to do that, right? You're never going to get away from that. But it's more important that we figure out where was the breakdown. How do we figure out the challenge so that we don't have 10 more of these fires? I don't want to be good at putting out this fire. I want to put this fire out before it starts. So they need to be right. They avoid tough decisions. And you might see this in your customers. Do your customers ever struggle to make a decision? I want to see 3 designs, or I want to bid out 10 different ways. I need to think about it. I need to talk to people. Well, usually that's indicative. And Tom brought it up. Confused customers don't buy. Okay, confused customers don't buy. They will avoid that tough decision. They'll delay making the investment. Okay? They lack clarity and direction. I'll see this sometimes with business leaders. Every day they read a new book, and so there's a new direction. Today we're talking about cheese, right? Where's my cheese? Next day we talk about eating frogs, and then the next day we're talking about, this new freedom scale, and then the next day we talk about, so they lack direction. It needs to be clear. This is our direction. This is our goal. We're going to talk about effective leadership here in a little bit as well. They're afraid to make mistakes. So I'm going to share with you an internal study that we did. So we sat down and we interviewed fighter pilots. And in fact, I have on my team, we have a fighter pilot. So he was in the Gulf War, and he had a choice. He was a pilot. He said, as a pilot, when you're in the military, you're either the arrow or you're the target. He said, I don't want to be the target. Okay, which makes perfect sense. And he taught me the phrase, get close and go, which I don't know that I want pilots to feel like that, but don't be afraid to make mistakes. Sometimes you just got to move forward. You got to give something a try. You got to take a risk. They don't manage stress well. Have you seen this leader? They're stressed out and they walk through the office. It's like an Avenger movie. Like they're just throwing fire everywhere and they're angry and they're stressed and they think that, I had a rough day or we lost that big project. Okay, so they don't manage stress well. Effective influencers, we have to manage stress well. The speed of the leader determines the rate of the pack. And if you are constantly stressed out and then you wonder why your team is stressed out, I don't know why everybody's so crazy around here. I have no idea either. It blows my mind. I love this one. So people who are ineffective influencers, so influencers are fun. Okay? Influencers are charismatic. Influencers aren't afraid to ask questions, to put themselves out there. People who lead from fear are usually boring. Okay? They hide in their office. I saw this a lot in the last year and a half. Some people are like, okay, I'm just going to be in my office. Let me know when it's over. Get rid of whoever. Let the HR department deal with the people. I'm just going to hide out and hope for the best. Hope is not a strategy. It's not a sales strategy. It's not a business strategy. Hope is not a strategy. And then they're reactive instead of proactive. Okay, again, you can't be an influencer unless you lead. If you're constantly reacting to what's happening around you, you are going to be an ineffective leader. Okay, I'd wait, I don't want to wait, let's see if we get some complaints about that product and then we'll make a change. Okay, it's too late. So make sure you're being proactive. Be proactive in the sales process and in leading your team. All right, so what not to do? If you did write those down, circle it, put a big line through it, don't do those things. So the top 5, how do we make sure, how do we confirm, how do we ensure that we are an effective, essential, productive, positive influencer, which will make you an intentional leader? Now, when I say intentional, what does that mean? If I say I could just say, be a good leader. Well, that'd be boring. What is intentional? How does that change it?
Intentional means that you make active decisions to improve,
Yes.
to get feedback
Yep.
from your team that you work with, get feedback from customers,
Perfect.
and always continue to tweak and follow the trends to improve not just yourself, but your organization as well.
Absolutely. Active. Use active and conscientious, right? Yes.
I always like to say it's begin with the end in mind.
Yes, absolutely. Begin with the end in mind. And we mentioned every day you're getting better or worse, right? Nothing plateaus. You never, every single day, you decide I'm either moving forward or moving backwards. My business is getting better or it's getting worse. Nothing stays the same. Okay, nothing stays the same. So let's talk about being an intentional leader. Well, it ties into a couple of things. Now, a lot of you recognize we've got a bunch of very well-known leaders. Some you may like, some you may not like, but certainly it goes to show that you can be an influencer. Oprah, I think, is a great example. One time she said she wasn't going to eat hamburgers and the world came down around her ears, right? So you can be an influencer and come in all shapes and sizes. So I mentioned before we did a study. And we interviewed, this was actually an internal study. A lot of the research I'll share with you is outside, but this is an internal study. And we sat down and we wanted to study people who are trained to lead during times of chaos. And some of you are like, you should have called me. I ran a sign company in 2020. I get that. But we decided to focus on, so again, a group of fighter pilots, a bunch of military leaders. We interviewed police, and we interviewed professional firefighters. So one of our firefighters actually has been a professional firefighter for over 40 years. Okay? So he just actually had retired. And we asked them, when it comes to being an effective leader and an intentional leader in times of great chaos, in times of being in a burning building, in times of war, in times of an interaction, what can I pull from that? And what was interesting is that these different groups all had very similar strategies. And I just want to share those with you. We're going to go through this rather quickly. But pull from it what you will to running your own business. First and foremost, they said, they talked about control, which you know that's a big thing. Successful people focus on what they can control. Unsuccessful people complain about what they can't control. Successful people control what they can control. And again, Michael Phelps, you mentioned him before, that's what he's known for. Okay, he would actually go through training where they would give him his cap would rip, or his goggles would fog up, or he would get, the cramp in his leg, and they would practice over and over again if something happened in a race. So remove fear and anxiety. Okay, so if I'm going to lead a group into a fire, if I'm going to lead a group into war, if I'm going to load up a plane, I have to be in control of my emotions, of the plan, and I want to remove fear and anxiety from other people. Okay, that's how we function as a unit, as a group, as a team, as an organization. Next up, we're going to talk about confidence. I mentioned before, Harvard Business told us when somebody meets you for the first time, when you saw me get up on stage, you're trying to figure out, can I trust her? And is she confident? Is she confident in information? Can I trust her with my valuable time? Okay. Are you confident in the mission? Are you confident in your business plan? I've seen business leaders roll out their business plan to the team and say, well, this is a stretch goal. I'm not really sure if we'll be able to do it, but I want to put it out in front of you. Literally, I had somebody say, because if I don't give you a stretch goal, I know you guys are probably not going to do anything. Okay? That's not confidence in the mission. Saying, here's our numbers, here's our plan for growth, and maybe growth is growing the team, maybe growth is growing your product line offering, hopefully growth is growing your sales. But do you have confidence in the mission? Is that clearly articulated? Again, as business leaders, sometimes we have it in our heads and we assume that everybody just picks it up because we talk about it as we go through. Make sure it's clear. If you're in the sales process, are you confident in the solution that you're going to provide? Right? Here's what we know. We have a variety of solutions that can meet your unique needs. That's what your customer wants to hear, okay, before we get into budget and products. Third, repetition and redundancy. We know this. Again, the pilot talked about this a lot. The repetition. There's a reason we say things out loud. We have to go through the checklist. Your customers want a checklist. What are the steps in your process? And I recommend that you have that written down. Here are the steps in the process. We do this first, then we design, then we put together the installation. Okay, whatever that process is for you, do you have it written down? Is it something you can provide to a customer? Okay, now, I know some of your customers, they're big, huge companies, and they have locations across the country. We're doing every Perkins, we're doing every Quick Trip. But probably, what percentage of your customers only order a sign maybe once every 4 or 5, 10 years? What percentage of your customers, it's maybe the first time or the first time in a long time? Is it 5%, 50%? A lot? Is it more than 50? I don't know, I'm just asking. 80? Yeah, so think about that. They don't know. So do you make it easy for them to buy? Here's the process. It's a 3-step process. It's a 2-step process, 5 steps. Well, the human brain, I recommend it's between 3 and 5 steps, no more than 5 steps. More than 5 steps, we get overwhelmed and we don't want to do it, okay? Repetition and redundancy, and then here's the thing, confusion. Confused customers don't buy. In this study, they said confusion results in loss. If there is any confusion on the part of the customer, if I need time to think about it, I'm telling you there's something I don't know, understand, appreciate, or haven't bought into. Okay? If you have a team member who doesn't understand clearly defined roles, you cannot over-communicate with people. Okay? Clearly define the roles and expectations. Teach your team members to be good team members. Teach your trade partners, this is exactly how we do it. This is how we dress. This is how we confirm our appointments. Today's consumers want to know. Okay? I remember when I first got into sales, I had this belief that I would do like the magic behind the scenes and then roll it out. Okay? Ta-da, you're welcome. But the challenge is people didn't have their engagement, okay? The IKEA effect, they didn't feel involved in it. So we want to make sure there is no confusion. I do this, you do that. Here are the steps in the process. While you're doing this, I'm doing this. We need to look into financing. Do we need to look into design? Cities, okay? What are the rules in each city? Which I understand from my interviews with people, that's one of the super fun parts of this job, right? We love working with cities. Now, I'm going to recommend to you that when you meet with customers, you're not just talking about selling signs, you're talking about the additional benefits that you provide. And one of those benefits is probably design. It could be creating a budget. Okay, I want you to talk about all of it. Here's what you get. When you work with my ABC sign company, here's what you get. Yes, a fabulous, super cool, amazing sign that's going to generate revenue, drive traffic, build your brand. Absolutely. But you're also going to get a partner in the process. We will work with you to understand this city rules or requirements. We will help you design the very best solution based on your budget and needs. We will help work with, some of you probably work with people who are doing the construction. You have to work with that schedule sometimes. Okay, we'll help you. And the good news is when new and better products are available, I will bring those to your attention. We can help you with interior signage. You've got to make sure that we're offering all of those solutions. Okay, confusion results in loss. Confused customers don't buy. Confused team members aren't good. Okay, there's a lot of words that went through my head I'm trying to filter. Okay, so make sure you're taking care of that. Confidence is contagious. Your confidence, I have a client who is a business owner and he does a lot of their front-end sales, and he always says, my confidence is their confidence. Whether I'm talking to my team, whether I'm talking to a customer, when I can say, look them in the eye and say, hey, this looks like a great project. We would absolutely love to partner with you on it. Let's talk about next steps. They know and I have no idea what I'm going to do for them at that time. Okay? But I know I'll find a solution. We've been in business a long time. We always find a solution. Okay? So let's make sure we communicate that. Did you have something you want to say, Pete? Okay. All right. So confidence, you want to make sure, do you measure the temp or set the temp? This is the true sign of an influencer. If you feel like, I hear this sometimes, all people are crazy. Nobody wants to buy quality products. Nobody's willing to wait 12 weeks, 30 weeks, whatever your lead times are. But the fact is you either set the temp or you measure the temp. Okay? We have to help people understand, yes, lead times might be longer, but here's the benefit. Here's what is going to happen behind the scenes. Okay? And then we talked about communication. Tom referred to this. We are always, anytime we're going to do anything with sales or leadership, we know it is about communication. Okay? Communication. Your success as a leader, your success as a salesperson is dependent on your ability to communicate effectively. Are you direct? Are you prepared? Are you positive? And so I want to share a little bit of those communication techniques with you. So at Conversionomics, we talk about the 5 C's, and I want to ask you to do this. If nothing else, there's a couple of things where please, please, please put this into your business practice. Commit to clear, confident communication. Clear, confident communication with your team. Clear, confident communication with your customers. Now, some of you, I know you've got this down pat. We send out an email once a week. We do a lot of social media posts. We do videos on the latest and greatest items that are available. Fantastic. Some of you are like, man, I'm just trying to keep up with demand. I'm just trying to return phone calls right now. So I haven't talked to my customer in 5 years, 10 years, 6 years until they reach out to me. If you want to be successful in the future, you've got to commit to clear, confident, consistent communication. Those organizations that made it through the last 18 months, a lot of them had leaders. It was amazing to see some of these leaders step up, and they would do a Friday Zoom, or I had another organization that would do like a Wednesday water cooler. Just hearing from you. They need to hear from you and see you, okay? No matter how busy you are. So I like to share this example. So this is actually, I always say this is a true story with an actor portrayal. So I have this good friend, the true story, he posted this on Facebook one day. So I have these friends, Mark and Sandy. This is not their picture. He said I could use his name, I could use his story, I can't use his picture. So I found this picture of my good friend, Mark and Sandy. And Mark is actually in the construction industry, and he lives in Minneapolis. So one day, and it was in January. Now, how many of you are from the Midwest, like South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota? Okay, how many of you, anybody from Minnesota? Okay, right up front. Perfect. All right, I'm going to pick on you two because we haven't had a lot of eye contact. I'm going to mosey over this way. Seth only lets me go so far, so I'm going to come right here. So, Minnesota, have you lived there your whole life? Both of you? Great. So what is weather, in January, there's always that 1 week, right? It's like 4 or 5 days, and it's what everybody thinks Minnesota is like all year long. But it plummets like that 45 below wind chill, right? You know what I'm talking about? That super cold week. For those of you who don't, Tallahassee, those of you who are from out of state, it's when they show the video of like the local people throwing the boiling water out. Yeah, it's those kind of days. So it's 45 below. And like every good person in Minneapolis, he texts his wife and says, hey, Sandy, I'm on my way home tonight. I got to swing by Target and pick up something for work. When I'm on my way, is there anything that you need? And she texted him back, yeah, absolutely. You know what? This weather has been so terrible lately. While you're there, would you please pick up a face mask for me? Okay? So Mark says, of course, absolutely. You're lovely. I'll do anything I can for you. Mother of my children. No, he didn't say all that. But he goes to Target, and this is what he picks up. It's a true story. Well, it makes sense, right? The weather's really cold. It's hard on your skin. He's looking out for his wife. Now, some of you know, when I see this, I think of that TV show Bad Girls, where they like rob banks wearing these things. Like, I don't know what he thought was happening. Some of you might, and some of you are like, I don't get it. Why are people laughing? I have no idea why this is funny. Well, this is what she actually wanted, okay? So the reason I bring this story up is because if it's possible that these two people who live together 24 hours a day, been married for 14 years, 3 kids, the whole gamut, if they can have a communication breakdown, is it possible that you can have a communication breakdown with your customer or a team member? Yes. So I always have to do one aside. So I like to try stuff out on my husband. And so I showed him this video or this image. And the first thing he said to me was, oh my God, is her face peeling off? So I feel like I should clarify that this is not, no, her skin is not peeling off. It just comes off, okay? So let's think about it. We have to be intentional. And we're going to talk, one of the biggest part of communication, obviously there's different parts of communication. There's your verbal, there's your nonverbal. Certainly your visual brand is a big part of that. But I want you to think about the language that you choose, okay? Language affects perception. And I will tell you that consumer research is telling us right now, language has never been more important, okay? Language choice has never been more important. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Why would you agree?
Because some people, there's a generation that's not really participating in an effective manner with communicating verbally.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of their communication is digital.
Yep. Boy, talk about bad communication. Yep.
You have to adjust and try to get them to open up and be comfortable.
It's true.
And that's a challenge.
It is. So here's the thing. Communication is important. Language has never been more important, but people have become really bad communicators.
Yeah.
We're really, I'm sorry, it's true. Okay? We become bad communicators. So I want to give you a couple suggestions here for language that affects perception. So if you want to be an influencer, you want to drive engagement with your team and your customers. So look at the words on the left. What do they all have in common? Negatives. Okay, in fact, so negative, research will show you that these are some of the most disliked words. I don't want to hear this from anybody. I don't want to hear, I don't know. I don't want to hear, we can't. I don't want to hear, don't quote me. That's my favorite. Oh my gosh, please don't ever say don't quote me. You might as well have the finger guns, right? What's it going to take to get you in this new sign, right? You don't want to do that. So we're going to talk about a few of these. Now, I don't know. And whenever I talk about this, so who's the newest person in the industry? So has anybody in this room been in the industry less than a year? Please raise your hand. Okay, less than 6 months. Less than 6 months? Sir, what was your name, sir?
John.
John, perfect. John, how long have you been in the industry?
I bought an existing company in May.
Oh, perfect. Well, welcome to the industry, John. We're so glad to have you here. So, John, being new to the industry, is it possible that you might get asked a question you don't know the answer to? Every day. Right. Now, even if who's been in the industry longer than 40 years? Anybody? Every once in a while I'll get a 40-year veteran. Sir, your name, sir? Rick. Rick, you've been in the industry how long?
48 years.
48 years, wonderful. Well, that's amazing and fantastic. You look very young and spry for 48 years in the industry. So, Rick, do you ever get asked a question that you don't know the answer to? Okay, perfect. I appreciate you both being honest. Sometimes I got an audience that won't work with me. They're like, nope, I know everything. Move on, lady, right? So thank you. The point is, in this industry, even the folks here at Daktronics, you might be a leader in Daktronics and things are constantly changing. So the reason people don't want to hear, I don't know, thank you, I forgot about it. I was so excited about the bot. I should be the first one. I wanted to just chuck it around the room and see what happened. So the reason people don't want to hear, I don't know, the truth is you might not know. But why don't your customers want to hear, I don't know from you?
That feels like putting up a wall.
Okay.
And that whatever they're there to get, they're not going to get it.
Yes, exactly.
They feel like they may have wasted their time.
Ding, 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 Pete, that's the right answer. Today, we are very conscientious about our time, right? What's the most valuable resources? Time and money, and time is more important. So if I come to you and I ask you a question and you tell me I don't know, I instantly think to myself, then you are wasting my time.
Unmet expectations.
Exactly. Now, I'm never going to tell you to lie. Don't make something up. Don't fill in the gap. But instead, we just get in the habit of saying, hey, that's a great question. That's a great question. Why do I default to that? If you ask me a question, and sorry, sir, I can't read your name tag. Greg? Yeah. Greg, if you ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, and I respond with, that's a great question, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like I asked a great question.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's exactly right, Greg. Here's the key, friends. If you want to be successful in sales, it's making the customer feel successful. Make the customer feel smart. Make them feel like they've done the right thing, they've come to the right place. Too often, I'll see salespeople are like, I really want to make sure everybody knows that I'm experienced and knowledgeable and I have all the answers. But it's not about how they feel about you, it's how they feel about themselves working with you. So you're exactly right. That's a great question. Now, so get in the habit. That's a great question. Then I always follow it up with, what am I going to do to find the answer? That's a great question. Our team will do some research to find the specific product that will meet your unique need. The specific product that meets your unique need. How do I feel now, Greg? That's right.
More confident.
Yeah, more confident. Because you're right, I am unique. My business is unique. I don't want the same thing as everybody else. And what have I, as a salesperson, or even as a business leader, what have I done? Made them feel good. Bought myself time, right? Too often, I see salespeople, they jump in, and they want to fill that gap because we hate silence. We hate it, right? Love sales, hate silence. So we jump in and like, well, actually, and then we start giving examples of something we did for somebody else. And how does Greg feel about what I did for the pizza place down the road? Don't care. Now you're really wasting my time, okay? That's a great question. We have a number of resources available. We have a lot of options. Let's do some research. Let's meet again, okay? So get in that habit. So just so you know, if there is time for Q&A at the end, somebody's going to ask me a question, and I always default to that's a great question. So just be prepared. You can totally call me on it. All right, we can't. Nobody wants to know what you can't do. Everybody is tired, just like you're tired of hearing about product delays and shipping issues and things that are caught overseas. They're tired of it too. Don't tell me what you can't do. Well, here, it's like when you go to a restaurant. I eat out a lot. I love food. And I always think it's funny when you sit down at a restaurant and the first thing they say to you is, well, let me just tell you right now, we don't have the walleye. We're all out of salad, okay? Don't tell me what I can't get. Because instantly what happens, when somebody tells us what we can't get, we want it even more, okay? Which is actually a good dating strategy, I'm just saying, but not so much for business. So instead, this is what we can do. I need a new sign, I need it in 2 weeks. I hear what you're saying, tell me more about that. Well, we're doing a grand opening, blah, 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 whatever the reasons are. Okay, well, here's what we can do. We can get you a banner that we can get up as soon as possible. And then we can still get you this fantastic LED that's going to pull people off the interstate. Okay, instead of saying, well, we can't. Nobody can get a sign in 2 weeks. That's impossible. Oh, great. That's super helpful for me. Here's what we can do. Here's what we can offer. Here's what we can take a look at. Okay? Do you ever have that champagne taste beer budget situation? I saw a sign in Vegas, and I want it on my yarn shop, right? In Redwood Falls, Minnesota. That's what I want. So we have to make sure, well, here's what we can do. Let's talk about it. What is going to be most important? Do we have some opportunity to extend that budget, or should we look for another solution that's a better fit for the budget? Too often, especially when we've been in the business a long time, we're like, yeah, I know you like that, but you said your budget is 10 grand, so I'm going to show you this. And then the customer says, well, if I can't get what I want, I don't want anything. So we got to be careful. Don't quote me. Of course, please don't say don't quote me. Because first of all, if you do say don't quote me, what's going to happen? They're going to quote you forever. Okay, well, don't quote me, but I think about 150,000 should cover it. Don't quote me. And you're like, well, I said it came in at 100, I'm within 10%. Yeah. Not only will they quote you again, but they will use that number to beat you about the head and shoulders for the rest of your relationship. Okay? Instead, say, here's what we know. Here's what we know. Similar projects, if people are asking you, well, how much, do you ever get asked, how much does a sign cost? Have you had that question? Yeah. So there's a couple ways you can answer it. There's one good way. Well, there's a variety of solutions out there, works in a number of different budgets. Let's talk about what you need. Or you can list off 100 things. You can say, our signs, LED signs range from X to Y. I like big, fat ranges. Huge, giant ranges. Okay, let's talk about you. We want to refocus them. Okay, so here's what we do know. Here's what we know that, the signs in this range go from 50 to 250, okay, or 10 to 15. Big, fat ranges. How do you feel about that? Okay, no problem. This is funny. Okay, this is kind of an aside. When someone says, thank you for your help. Thank you for coming in today. Thank you for your referral. Thank you for the free lunch. Okay, we have gotten to this terrible habit of answering thank you by saying, no problem. Any guesses on the 2 words that people dislike the most in the English language?
No.
Yeah, thank you. Nobody wants to hear no, but nobody wants to hear problem, and we have decided that that's the appropriate response to thank you. Okay? So this is just an aside for me. When somebody says thank you, the appropriate response is, you're welcome. Why is that the appropriate response? What does you're welcome actually mean? Think about it for a minute.
It's my pleasure to be of service.
Yeah, right. You're welcome to contact me again. You're welcome to refer me again. You're welcome to buy me dinner, okay? You're welcome. I know it's a small thing, but I'm telling you it makes a big change. Now, you bring up, usually when I talk about this, people ask about the it's my pleasure, like at there's a hotel that says it. I think Chick-fil-A does it too. Yeah, Chick-fil-A, I think they're an amazing business strategy.
Closed on Sunday, but
yeah, right.
they're the most profitable.
Speaking of good process, though.
In their industry.
Yep.
Per
And the process of going through, I have never actually eaten there. My husband eats there every single day. I hear about it all the time.
More revenue than any other franchise.
Yeah.
Per franchise.
And you can't buy one unless you work there. Yeah.
Sunday's revenue out, they still
Yeah.
make more money than any other chain.
It's amazing. So here's the thing. People will say, how do you feel about it's my pleasure? I will tell you my personal feeling, like that's a bit strong. Like somebody checks me in at a hotel. Was it that great? I don't know. But I think just a simple "you're welcome" is really helpful. And then delay. Nobody has to talk about delays in this industry, right? That never happens, the D word. Okay? Now, I will tell you, this is one of the most common things. And again, it's not just the sign industry. I work with a lot of commercial construction, and they have this problem with everything right now. So we know there's going to be delays. However, you call up a customer and say, "Hey, Greg, just want to let you know there's been a delay. You know, COVID." And you're like, "Really? Please don't use COVID anymore. Like, I know it's impacting us still, but let's stop talking about it." When you say delay to a customer, what is their instant response? Negative. And you're the messenger. Have you ever heard "don't shoot the messenger"? Like, there's a reason for that. So instead we say there's an update to the schedule. And I like to give people, I'm sure you're quoting ranges right now as far as delivery dates, which you should. We will update the schedule. "Hey, I want to reach out to you, Taylor, and let you know there is an update to the schedule. Right now it's looking like delivery will be on October 1st. And that's it. Okay? If they ask you why, then we can tell them. But if you launch into everything that's wrong with the universe right now, does that make them feel better about their decision to work with you? No.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
And it slowly erodes the chances of you ever doing business with them again.
Exactly. So I like to set the expectation right up front. Here is our expected date. Now, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. I will reach out to you immediately if there is an update to the schedule. And when you reach out to them, I want you to say, "We just found out there has been an update to the schedule." So you're not waiting a day or 2 days or 3 days or a week to share that information. Okay? So language affects perception. Now, this is the important part. I know how the human brain works. So by now, it's like we have a 9-second attention span. You've all seen this before, like less than goldfish. You've seen that analogy. So I know you're an hour in after having giant pastries, but this right here, the most valuable words in business, it is worth the price of admission, which Tara told me is free, right? You didn't pay anything to get here, so it's totally worth that. So what are the most valuable words in sales and leadership? Number one, the word solutions. People are not buying products and services. They are buying solutions. I have problems and challenges. You have solutions. Let's talk about some different signage solutions. Once we're done with the exterior, let's talk about interior sign solutions. Okay? You have solutions. Consumer research will show you they will pay more for solutions. Those of you who have the name solution in your business, you instantly are perceived to have higher quality products and greater value. Okay? Offer solutions. I've even seen some people change their business cards to, signage solution expert, or I provide, customer service solutions. So the more you can use that word, people want to know, all I have is problems. I'm opening a new business, all I have are problems. I'm looking for people with solutions. The next one is partner. In this day and age, if you're working with, whether it's small business owners or huge organizations, we've become kind of a we versus them society, right? Which team do you root for? Who did you vote for? Okay, what city do you live in? So we want them to know we want to be a partner. This looks like a great project, and we would love to partner with you on it. Research will show you, if I look at you, instead of looking at you as a salesperson, I look at you as a business partner, then I will inherently spend more. Naturally, it guides the engagement process, which I'll share some of those stats a little bit. This is it, my friends, right here. This word is the most valuable word in leadership or sales. Let's talk about next steps. Instead of saying, well, would you like to? Would you like to buy this? Okay, would you like to meet with our salesperson? Would you like to meet with our designer? We want to say, let's move people forward in the process. Let's talk about next steps. Let's schedule the next step. Anybody in this room have more than one customer, more than one project at a time? Yeah, of course you do, right? I hope you do. I hope you do. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes we get too busy. If we don't schedule that follow-up meeting with a customer, it could be a great customer, the best customer, huge project, fantastic, super sexy, ton of traffic going to drive by, it's going to bring in referral business, and they say, you know what, we're going to think about it and we'll touch base with you next week. Ugh. What does that mean? See you later, friend. Okay? It's our job to lead that process. Let's talk about next steps. Let's set up the next step, whether that's a meeting or a phone call, schedule it. A specific time. Now, Are you ever going to get those people who say, well, I don't know, I got to talk to people, like they won't even commit to a follow-up meeting? A certain percentage of the time. So here's my recommendation. This is a game changer. It's the tentative appointment. You say, hey, I get it, you're super busy, you've got to talk to other people. Let's schedule a tentative follow-up, phone call, Zoom meeting, whatever it is, for next Thursday at 9:30. How does that work for you? And I'll send you an email to confirm. Okay, so you do one more step, and then you confirm. What percentage of tentative appointments do you think stick? And this is just my own research. What percentage of tentative appointments stick?
50%.
Good guess? It's even higher. Yeah, it's like 79%. And another 5% will say, hey, you know what? Actually, Thursday doesn't work for me. Can we move it to Friday at a different time? Or can I invite somebody else in? I'm like, heck yeah, you can, right? Versus, give me a call when you get around to it, which then we play phone tag. Ugh, okay, nobody wants to do that. So let's talk about next steps. Let's look at some potential solutions. Let's get this person on the phone. Let's take some time to pull up this website. Let's talk about, if you're leading a team, let's talk about next steps for you. Okay? We'll work on team members, customers, coworkers, other people that around you. It'll work on your spouses. It will not work on your kids. Okay? It'll work on other people's kids. It will not work on your own kids. Okay? They figured out really fast. And then convenience and easy. People pay for convenience. We talked about this early on. We want to make it easy for you. We know opening a new business or turning it into a franchise or rebranding your space, we know there's a lot of parts and pieces. We want to make this part the easiest part in the process. Do your customers want to hear that? Yes. They need you to say it. Okay? They need you to say it. And then next steps. Every single contact you have with a customer, every single contact ends with next steps. And you have to lead that. You move them forward, whatever it is. It might be sitting down, it might be financing, it might be design, it might be walking the space. I don't know what it is. But do you leave every contact? Even if you bump into somebody at a networking event and they say, yeah, you know what, I've been thinking about doing something new. Okay, I'll send you an email tomorrow. Let's schedule a time, or let's talk about a tentative appointment. Every phone call ends with next steps. When I work with a customer, at the bottom of the email, it always says next steps. And then the sad thing is when you're done, when you provide the product or service, they're like, oh, there's no more next steps. Okay. Next steps, you come back and buy again. Okay. So the most valuable words. And two, it's timing. Communicate with the right person at the right time about the right solution. So that's your job too. Am I talking to the right person? How do we make it through to that next step? Actually, Jess and I were talking about that yesterday. How do we make sure we're talking to the decision maker? Sometimes you think that you are, and you're not. So I like to ask the question, is there anybody else that's going to be involved in this decision-making process? Anybody else we should invite to the meeting? Anybody else that might have questions? I want to make it easy for you to buy. And sometimes they're like, yeah, actually, I have a silent investor, or yeah, I have somebody who's driving this. I have an interior designer who's helping with the interior. I want to know, because I want to get everybody on board. All right, and then as a leader, I want you to get in the habit of asking this question: what do you think? To your team members, to your trade partners, what do you think about our current process? What do you think about our current installation schedule? When I sit down with, one time I had a huge team, and you have to address issues. Okay, salespeople tend to have, I managed a very large sales team. Sometimes there's big egos that go with big sales numbers. We have to sit down and have serious conversations, and I will say, hey, what do you think? What do you think about your sales goal achievement? What do you think about the new customer lead process that we have? What do you think? And be prepared to listen. All right, these next ones we're going to go through rather quickly. Number 2, team sales approach. Do you have a team sales approach? Everybody is in sales. Now, some of you might say, hey, there's 2 of us, or there's 200. Your installers are part of the sales process. Research will show you when you have installers who say, man, this looks good, your customers, your engagement and your satisfaction goes up substantially. Why? Why does the installer's opinion matter? More so than the salesperson.
He's more objective.
More objective. And when you're now, I don't want them, again, if they don't feel that way, they shouldn't say it, but when your installer can come in and say, man, this looks great. This is one of the best LED signs I've seen. Okay, or this is what, on this street, you now have the best signage on the street. They want that confirmation. Everybody is in sales. Okay, everybody, your customer service, your HR, yes, please. Oh yeah, just chuck it across there. I want to see how far it'll go.
Also, the installer has a different perspective than the average
Yes,
layperson.
exactly.
Because they're looking at little details and nuances that, because they're from the industry.
Right, they're professionals. Absolutely, perfect, thank you. Yes, sir.
You bring up team sales approach, and
Yes.
some of the things that have been most impressive for me as I've taken tours of some of the sign companies is when you're walking through and getting a tour of a sign company, and the workers, whether they're the designers or purchasing or manufacturing or the vinyl department, people look up and they say, hi, you know, and they welcome you as you're walking through them. So
Yes.
if you're bringing a customer through, you know, having that team sales approach throughout the whole organization tells the customer that, wow, these guys really like what they do, and I feel like I'm going to get a really quality, creative product in the end.
Absolutely. Everybody. Somebody who's at reception, your person who collects your payments, everybody is in sales. And it's none of this. There'll be no finger guns. Okay? But we do have to make sure that we are paying attention to that customer experience. And you have to add value to every single customer contact. Just like I said, in your business, you are constantly either getting better or getting worse. Every customer contact is either positive or negative. There's no such thing as a neutral. When they see you, when they see your storefront, when they see your vehicle that you drive, they want to know you have a name tag or you've got logoed clothing. They want to see that confidence. Every contact has to add value. All right, number 3, this we're going to go through rather quickly. You got to make sure you are growing today's talent for tomorrow's need. Grow today's talent for tomorrow's need. And actually, Seth was telling me about Daktronics is creating a program where they're teaching high schoolers to work and create product to support the products you sell here. I love that. That's creating tomorrow's talent. What are you doing to create tomorrow's talent? A couple of quick things. We know that there is, you may have heard, there's a labor shortage in every single industry. And in this industry, you support all of these industries, so this is nothing new. A little bit about future workforce trends. This is not as just knowing the different groups. So we got boomers, which again, millennials think everybody's a boomer. Okay, we're not all boomers. We're not all boomers. There's a Gen Y, we get lost in the middle. Millennials, of course, the Gen Z. So we've got these different groups out there. I just want to share with you some stats. So right now, Gen Z and millennials make up, by 2025, I just jumped ahead a little bit. By 2025, Gen Z and millennials will make up 75% of the global workforce. 75%. So here's what I'm telling you. If you were a leader in the past and you worked with a lot of Gen Y or boomers, and now you're like, hey, I got to work with millennials, whether they're customers or they're internal team members, we have to make sure we're adjusting our processes. So a couple of things, and actually I'm just going to bring these up. I'll send these off. Tara's going to do a follow-up, so I'm going to send this to you so you don't have to write all of this down. But what is the difference between employees of the past and team members of the future? It's no longer just about the paycheck. It's about the purpose. Do your team members understand it's not just about how much do I make per hour or per year? Certainly benefits are important, but do they understand the purpose? How do we support the industry, our communities? What is the career development? They care about their team. They want ongoing assessment. Okay, not just an annual review, not just, hey, well, we talk all the time. That's not the same. I want you to focus on my career. Where do I go from here? Even if you're a small company, we can still talk about where do you go from here. If you're a large organization, where are the opportunities for growth? Of course, they want to focus on their strengths. And it used to be, how does my life work around my job? Well, the team members of the future are more concerned about my life. Okay, my job's got to work. And you hear this all the time. If you've been doing any kind of recruiting, you know the concept work-life balance comes up a lot. Okay? That was something. When I first got into career after college, I was like, man, all I care about is making as much money as I can. That's probably how I got in sales. But today's team members, certainly there might be some people like that, but the majority of them are more concerned about their life. So this is interesting too. Make sure that you are recruiting and interviewing well. 80% of employee turnover is caused by bad hiring decisions. Now, why do we make bad hiring decisions? What happens?
Ineffective onboarding process.
Yes, we're going to talk about onboarding in a second.
Ineffective onboarding process.
Yep, and that's a huge driver. I'm going to share some stats on that. Onboarding, but even the interview process. Has anybody been in a rush? You're like, I need a body. I need somebody right now. I need somebody 2 weeks ago. So we rush it. Maybe we don't check references. Maybe the interview process is kind of slow. Again, I've seen a business leader who literally was so panicked about needing bodies that he was like, he told him the story of the business and then said, do you think you could work here? That was the one question. Needless to say, that person didn't last very long. So make sure interview better or outsource. If you are interested, I have some great questions you can ask in the interview process that will specifically help you understand, are these people going to be good? Are they going to be good long-term employees or not? So interview better or outsource, understand your target market.
You email those to?
I will, if you ask, if you're nice. Be prepared to sell. In recruiting, it's the biggest sales job in the industry. So yes, I'll send those interview questions with Tara, and then I think we're sending them out next week, right? Yeah. So be prepared to sell. And I have to tell you, so Gody Johnson, who I know is not here, but he is one of your valued partners here in the industry. And this is I had to make a slide just for this quotation. When I was asking about recruiting, and he said, actually, we're really good staffing-wise, and they're a pretty large company. And he said, winning is the best recruiting tool. And I love that quotation because I hear confidence. When you're proud of the projects you do, when you're proud of the team that you have, winning is the best recruiting tool. And how do we make sure that people know that you are an organization that's winning? You manage your online reputation. We know that 84% of customers will check you out online. They want to see your gallery. They want to know who's going to be there. They want to know how long you've been here. They want social validation. They want to see Better Business Bureau badges. Okay? They want it all. So make sure you're managing your online reputation. Now, your customers, absolutely, but also your team members, if you're recruiting, they're going to check you out online as well. So just a couple of places. Obviously, Google yourself early and often. It's surprising. I had an event 2 days ago, and somebody came up and knew some random statistic that I have no idea how they found it. Okay, I'm like, I better Google myself again and see what's out there. So Google, your website, of course, Glassdoor. What's Glassdoor? Who knows what Glassdoor is? Yeah, the reputation of the company, but specifically from your employee perspective. So I recommend, if you are an organization that is recruiting, that you check yourself out on Glassdoor. If you have reviews on Glassdoor, if they're negative, you can respond to them. Every once in a while, they'll be like, this person never worked for us. You can see the employer say, yeah, we don't know this person. But often, you can ask your team members to go there as well. Today's new talent, they're checking you out on Glassdoor. Indeed, of course, and then your social media platforms. Do you create the perspective that this is a great place to work? A lot of websites have career right on the board. Okay, here's our gallery, here's our services, here's our products. If you're interested in working here, have it on your website. And then we're on to number 5. We're going to talk about engagement. One of the top 2 terms of this year and going forward, focus on engagement. I'm going to talk a little bit about engaging your team and then a little bit about engaging your customers. So this is just a quick stat. We saw over the last 18 months, Gallup did a poll, and when it comes to team member engagement, we found that 45% of organizations saw a decline, 24% said it stayed the same, which is actually pretty low, and 31% actually said people are more engaged. Okay, they like their job even more. What do you think was the biggest driver in that? People who said, no, I'm more engaged, I'm happier with my job. What changed in the last 18 months for a lot of people? Working from home, more flexibility. Do millennials and Gen Zs like that? Yes, they do. Okay, we're going to talk about flexibility. And again, the number one reason that people leave an organization is poor leadership. And that's hard. Okay, we don't want to hear that. We want to say, the person left because they had or they had something else going on, or somebody offered them a few more bucks. But really, poor leadership is a big driver of that. But again, we can control that. We can control that. There's a great article on LinkedIn. You may have heard the term the Great Resignation. Okay, what is the Great Resignation? A lot of people are quitting. And in fact, I'll share with you some stats. 60%. Now, some of you have your teams here, and you're looking around at them right now. Okay, 60% of currently employed people are rethinking, I've used air quotes more in this presentation than I think I have in the last year and a half, rethinking their career. 1 in 3 is considering quitting. 1 in 3. Now, some of you might say, hey, actually, 1 in 3 probably should. Okay? That's okay. Don't keep people, you don't pay people to make you crazy. I learned that early on. Okay? But be aware of it. Okay? We want to be thinking about our team and what they need from us. The cost to replace, usually they say to replace a team member is about 50% or more of the person's annual compensation. And the reason I bring that up, again, if you've got somebody you need to let go, let them go. Okay? Whatever you got to do, let it go. Underperformers, just bring the whole team down. But it's so important that we put the time and energy into recruiting and onboarding. So how do we retain? Strategic onboarding is number 1. Again, I will send this out to you. We're kind of getting down to the end here, and I want to go rather quickly. Onboarding, onboarding, onboarding. It's no longer okay to say you're a new person, you're going to spend 3 hours with everybody on the team, and then you dump them in somebody's lap for 3 hours. Not everybody's good at onboarding. Okay, give them time. Have a strategic plan, particularly for that first day. That first day will set the expectation about how they're going to work with you. Employee engagement is important. Review your comp plans right now. If you haven't done it in the last 6 months, do it when you get home. Okay, you've got Friday Fun Day coming up, and then when you get back in the office on Monday, review your comp plans. Make sure that they are current. Pay early and often. Again, this is something we know about this new group. Pay them as early and as often as you can. There's a ton of different ways that you can do it. If you need ideas, reach out to me. Allowing flexibility. We learned that, right? That's why people, the ones that got more engaged, it was flexibility. I'm seeing this in organizations across the country. They're letting people, work 4/10s, or they're letting people rotate, or they're giving them extra time off. And I know in some jobs that's really hard to do, but more often than not, you can find a way to make that work. We want to evaluate and recognize. Evaluate and recognize. Recognize people the way they like to be recognized. Not everybody wants to get a plaque. Not everybody wants their name sent out. Know how your team likes to be recognized. And encourage diversity. And when I say encourage diversity, certainly in the types of people, but I mean diversity in thought, diversity in experience. Has anybody hired somebody from outside the industry and they came in with a bunch of fantastic new ideas that you hadn't thought of before? Yeah, I hope so. When I got hired originally I went from education into construction, and that was the person who hired me, who was hugely influential in my life, said to me, I don't hire people, and I didn't make you a manager to agree with me. I need your perspective. I need to have a different view of things. Okay, so encourage diversity and have your career planning. All right, and here's the other thing. With your team, whether you have a team of 2 or 200, 2,000, do you know each person's why? I like to, when I do more smaller groups, I'll say, why do you work here? Why did you choose this as a path? And sometimes it's a room full of people saying, well, it's pretty close to my house. Okay, that's okay. For most people, they might say, I love the products here. They might say, I needed the benefits. I want to grow. I like an organization that can relocate me. Know the why. And ask your customers why. Why did you reach out to ABC Sign Company? Why did you make this choice? When we understand the why, then we can get to the what and how much. But let's make sure we're always starting with the why. I'm going to skip through this. I'll send this out to you. Engaged customers, a couple of stats. Engaged customers, loyal customers. If you have allegiance with your customers, you are 300% more likely to be a repeat customer. Why do we like repeat customers? Sorry?
They're cheaper to sell to.
Yeah, because it costs less to sell to an existing client than to bring in a new client, right? It's really expensive to bring in new clients. So it saves us money, okay? So we want to make sure they're more likely to be a repeat. They usually have a faster buying process. You've already established trustworthiness and confidence in your ability to provide solutions. They're also 300% more likely to recommend you to others. Do we like referral sales almost as much as repeat buyers? We love referral sales. They buy more, and they buy faster. Everybody wins, okay? They're 44% less likely to collect bids. In some industries, you got to get 3 bids on everything, okay? Thank you, Angie's List. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you if you establish that friendship up front, that support, that trustworthiness, and they're 33% less price sensitive. We've done surveys in industries, and they will say, listen, I trust this organization. I trust you. When you tell me that there's been an increase, I trust you. Okay? But if I don't have that engagement or that trust, then I'm going to have more issues as far as pricing. And I love this. So, it can't be a sales training seminar without a Dilbert cartoon, right? That's kind of the jump in the shark here. So before I make my decision, I'd like to ask you for your opinions. It's supposed to make you feel engaged. So please don't say to people, I'm trying out Let's, did that make you feel engaged? Okay? And then they say, and you actually plan to listen to us? And his response, of course, is, I'm hoping it will look that way on the outside. Okay? So if you got to start there, start there. Confused customers, we talked about confused customers don't buy. 67% of your customers have said they'll have customer churn, meaning they don't come back to you again. 67% said, I left that company because of poor customer service. The challenge is they don't tell you. They don't call you up and say, hey, just wanted you to know I had a really bad experience with somebody on your team. They just disappear. So we want to make sure we're staying on top of that. So the key aspects, we're winding down now, the key aspects of customer experience, whether it's internal customers, your team members, your trade partners, or your external, Forbes came up with a list. It's really, really simple. There are 3 parts to it. 1, what makes you unique? When you are talking to a potential team member or potential customer, can you say simply and directly, here's what makes ABC Sign Company unique? It might be certification, it might be experience, it might be knowledge of the city, it might be design, it might be your own fabrication, maybe it's not, maybe it's the best local installers, maybe they're national installers. Whatever it is, you need to have at least 3. Here's what makes us unique, and be able to articulate that. Number 2, are you current? Boy, in your industry, so I just did a presentation at a lumber conference where they literally sell lumber, which thank goodness for lumber, it's important. But boy, keeping that current is a bit challenging. Okay, the size of a 2x4 has changed over the last 110 years, but that's about it. Okay, so your industry is always, are you current? Are you cutting edge? Does your social media reflect that? Does your website reflect that? If you need help, reach out to your partners. Okay, your product suppliers will help you with that. Notice how I just committed you, Daktronics, to that? I'm sure you'll help. And then 3rd, do you make people feel valued? Greg, in my example before, it's not about if I meet with a customer, do I make the customer feel smart, knowledgeable, and that they did the right thing? Or am I focused on making sure I look knowledgeable and experienced? So when people leave a contact with you, and for some of you this comes naturally, for some of you this is a game changer. First, I've been in the business a long time. I usually feel like I want to roll out a bunch of options, they choose one, and then we move forward. But does the customer feel successful? Are you able to tell your customer, you did the right thing by calling us right away, so we can help you establish the budget range for this project? You did the right thing. Maybe your ideas are fantastic. The fact that you have photos, whatever it is, make them feel valued if you want them to continue to be engaged in your business. And as my good friend Pete said, it's about taking action. So my last thing, we're going to do a quick Q&A at the end. And also, you're going to have my contact information. If you ever have questions, any friend of Daktronics is a friend of mine. You're welcome to reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer questions or provide additional information. But take action. So my last question for you before we give you a little bit of time for Q&A, what are the items that you jotted down that you can take action? How can you take action with the information we reviewed this morning? What jumps out to you? Thank you, Taylor. Where are your action items? Good one. Good one. Bonus points for you, sir.
I would just say the language stuff I think was kind of stuck out. Just be conscious of that and
Great.
how that affects
Okay,
people
great.
in the day. So.
Perfect. Any specific language that jumps out to you besides don't quote me on that?
I would say the let's.
Let's.
Let's is you're partnering up.
Yes.
I got that's perfect.
People are good, and it's the easiest. It's actually the easiest sales
Let's.
technique that you can use. Let's talk about next steps. Let's come to an agreement on a budget range. Let's set up the next meeting. Let's take a look at your progress so far on this project. Let's is the most valuable word in sales and leadership. Thank you. Give me 2 more action items you can take.
Know the why.
Yes. Know the why. Thank you.
They hurt. We have
Know the why.
Yes, thank you. Know the why, both for your team members and your customers. Why? So help me understand why you reached out to us at this time. Help me understand why you're considering a career with our organization. Thank you. Let's do one more. That's a great question. I'm telling you, it is so useful as I go into the Q&A portion of it. Yes, that is a great question. Make your customers feel good about it, even if you have to do some research. And if you have to do research, tell them. I'm going to reach out directly to Daktronics. I'm going to reach out to our installer. I'm going to research the city codes. Tell them what you're doing for them. If you want it to have value, tell them what you're going to do for them. All right, I left 1.5 minutes for Q&A. That's how I roll. So if you have a question, it will be a great question, but I will happily answer that now if you've got any. Any questions?
What are some signs of a confused customer?
Ah, what a good question. I've never been asked that before. Huge bonus points for you. Well, what'd you say? Signs of a confused customer. So if we know confused customers don't buy, what's a sign of confusion? There's a lot of things. Usually it's a delay. So they will say, I need to think it over. That's usually a good sign. I can appreciate that. Is there any additional information that would be helpful in making the decision? I find they'll be like, well, yeah, actually, I need to see something. Or do you have references? Or, are you certified? Oftentimes I will find just a delay. If they don't have any questions at all, that is usually an indicator that somebody either they're not interested or they don't understand. That's usually the key. Also, if I set up that next step and they're like, oh, no, that's usually a big sign that they're confused about it. And sometimes it's just simply you can see it on their face. They're just overwhelmed. When you start talking about budget range and they're like, holy cow, I had budgeted 25 and now you're talking about 50. How do I handle that? So those are usually the 3 big indicators. Great question, really good question. And I actually mean it this time. All right, keeping you all on schedule. I know you're going to a break, but I just want to once again thank you, Daktronics, so much for the opportunity to be back with you again today. As I mentioned, we're going to be sending there's some of the information out, and there will be a video available too for a brief amount of time. So please make sure if there's anything I can do, you can reach out to me directly. You've got my email. I do hope our paths cross again in the future. Until then, stay safe, be well, and keep selling. Thank you so much.